Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on a really cool carbine, one that I was unaware of. Now, I knew the predecessor to this rifle, but I didn't know they had come out with successive generations. Today we're going to be taking a look at the CMMG Resolute. Now, that earlier generation I was just alluding to is the CMMG Mutant. I guess the actual name of this particular carbine or rifle is the MK-47 or the Mark 47, and it's a blend between an AR-15 and an AK-47. Now, obviously, that is a really cool concept, trying to bridge two worlds of the firearms industry. However, sometimes when you try to make everybody happy, you make nobody happy, because maybe this has too many features of an AK that AR lovers are not going to like, and maybe it's too AR-ish for the AK guys because they're absolute purists. What do they always say? Niet, rifle is fine. But who knows, this could be something really cool, and I have never shot one of these before, so I'm really excited to get this to the range. And there's so much about this rifle that I kind of have opinions on. You guys know I'm an AR guy, but I also like the AK. But before we get into the things that I like and don't like about this rifle and talk about its features, as always, I want to thank the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this really cool rifle. His name is D. He's a local fan and subscriber, and he has an amazing collection and has lent many guns to the channel for review. So once again, thank you so much, D. I want to thank my Patreon supporters as always, because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep all of this content coming. I couldn't do it without them. And if you guys want to join my Patreon, you can do it for as little as $1 a month. There's a link in the description below, and you're going to see all of these videos early. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor for every one of these range reports, one of the best grip manufacturers in the world, Mark from Brownworks. And I know sometimes I sound like a broken record, always thanking Mark from Brownworks, but let me tell you, I could not run this channel without his support. He is an amazing sponsor, and not only is he an amazing sponsor, he makes honestly some of the best wood panel grips in the world. He's an artist, he's a craftsman. He can make wood grips out of a wide variety of exotic woods, laminate woods. He can apply custom logos, custom engravings, and custom textures, finish them in a wide variety of colors. He can even apply things like snakeskin and alligator skin to your grips. Things that I didn't even know were possible, he is making. Every set of Brownworks grips is unique and one of a kind and made to order to the customer's specifications. And many times they even exceed the expectations of his customers. I can tell you, when I have had firearms into the channel for review that have Brownworks grips on them, I am always blown away with how perfect and beautiful they are. And I know that a firearm in your collection deserves a set of Brownworks grips. So please go over there to his website. I'm going to put a link in the comment section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. I guarantee you, you guys will find something over there that you want, and he can make it for you. So please, when you contact him, please tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this rifle or carbine and what it is all about. Once again, this is the Mark 47 or the MK-47 from CMMG. It definitely has a lot of AR-15 styling to it, but you'll notice it does take AK-47 magazines, so you can release those with the paddle mag release. Right there, has the rock and lock system. So obviously this is chambered in 7.62 by 39. And I think it is a really interesting concept to try to chamber an AR-15 style gun in 7.62, because there are other companies that have attempted it, but they create a magazine that feeds through a standard magwell. And sometimes those just are not as reliable. So it's a really cool concept, and I kind of feel like they market it for people that like both the AR and the AK. And of course, as I said in the opening of this video, sometimes if you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. But I do know a lot of people really like this rifle and have talked a lot about it positively online and in many reviews. So I'm really excited to get to shoot it. So as always, I like to talk about the things that I like and don't like before getting it to the range. And as always, I want to be on the positive side first. Let's talk about a few things about this gun that I do like. And I've already mentioned the big thing. I love the concept of this rifle. It is really cool. They're trying to blend two totally different things in the firearms world into one. There are so many things about the AK that I definitely can say is superior to the AR, but there's so many things about the AR that I think are superior to the AK. So trying to blend those things, I think, is a great start to building a fantastic gun. Now, one of the things about the ARs that I prefer over the AKs is the finish. I always felt like ARs just look like they're finished nice, and CMMG does a fantastic job finishing their firearms. I'm not sure if this is a coating or an anodization, but it looks absolutely beautiful. It is finished really nice, appears to be very rugged. I know they offer it in a wide variety of colors. This is kind of a gray, probably a sniper gray. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I think this handguard is awesome as well. I've always thought AR-15s had a better handguard than AKs. Now I know you can get AK handguards that have M-lock slots and rail attachments and all that, but ARs just have so much more room and versatility. And I like the look of that handguard. I love the M-lock slots. You can put a ton of accessories on that. This gun also sports a Geissele trigger in it. This is one awesome trigger. I can tell you, just handling it here on the workbench, it has been absolutely fantastic. It really feels like it breaks very crisp and has a low pull weight, but not so low that I think it's dangerous. But I think this trigger is going to make this gun really shoot exceptional. So let me go ahead and adjust the camera. Let's actually get out the trigger pull weight gauge and let's see what this trigger is pulling at to give you guys a little bit more quantifiable data. Then we'll come back here and talk about a few things about this gun that maybe I don't like as much. So I've told you how nice this trigger is. It is made by Geissele, and you can tell because it does have the G forging mark on it. Let's go ahead and drop this magazine, ensure there is no ammunition, and then we will visually inspect the chamber. Of course, make sure we are clear. It looks like we are good. Now let's get some data on this trigger, and thank you again, Craig, for the donation of the Lyman trigger pull gauge, so we can add this to the range reports every time. Let me make sure that we are clear on the average, and let's get some trigger pulls in. Here we go. First pull. 4 pounds, 5.4 ounces. Four pounds, 1.8 ounces. 4 pounds, 3.9 ounces. 4 pounds, 7.7 ounces. And finally, 4 pounds, 5.3 ounces for an average of 4 pounds, 4.8 ounces. Now, this is definitely not a target trigger or a hair trigger, but it is light enough that I think you're going to get amazing groups at long distance. I would definitely put this in the realm of a duty trigger. However, it is very, very refined. It has a very crisp break, a wonderful take up, and you can tell that all the surfaces on that trigger are very well polished, which is what you would expect from Geissele. This is exactly in line with every trigger I have ever fired from there, so it's absolutely fantastic. This is an outstanding trigger to go in this rifle, and I think they made a great choice, and it has a perfect pull, in my opinion, for a gun of this type. All right, so that's what the trigger pull is, so let's get back to the rest of this range report. And I told you this trigger is awesome, but I know you really have to be here to experience it. It's one of those things that if you're not here to feel it, you don't really get the full experience. I know people can tell you about it, use certain terms like how crisp it is, but until you feel it for yourself, you can't really appreciate it. And I'm really glad that CMMG is putting these triggers in these guns now, because they used to put in their stock mil-spec triggers, which I never thought were any good. They came in those parts kits. They were okay, but they were nothing to write home about. But if you're going to spend the type of money you are on a gun like this, I'm sure glad that they upgraded using those Geissele triggers. But now let's talk about a couple things about this gun that I don't like. And the first thing is something I noticed the moment I laid eyes on it, and that is the stock. Now CMMG calls this the ripstock because you can rip it to deploy it. You just got to pull that thing out. It looks cool. I like how the finish matches the rest of the gun, but I am not a big fan of the butt pad. Really, it's not even a pad. It's just a piece of metal that has some serrations or maybe some checkering on it. This is thin, narrow, and I don't think is going to be very comfortable. A rifle chambered in 7.62 by 39 is going to hit a little harder than 5.56, and I don't think this is going to be a very comfortable stock, but it definitely does look cool. Now, something too that I noticed when I was handling it here on the workbench that I wish this rifle had was a bolt hold open. I am so used to the manual of arms of an AR-15 that I can lock the bolt open, or when I reinsert a magazine, all I have to do is push that little ping pong pad on the side. This rifle doesn't have it because AKs don't typically have that, and these magazines are not designed for it. So I kind of wish this gun could have that in some capacity. The other thing I noticed when I was dry firing it is that it lacks a side charger. Yes, you do have a charging handle here in the back, but man, it would be so nice to keep this rifle on your shoulder, and as you reinsert a new magazine, simply to reach up something on the side of the receiver to charge it. I know on an AK-47 you can reach around and charge it this way. It's way more ergonomic, but here having the charging handle right in your face, it's not as convenient as I think a side charger would be. Now, I know adding those features would probably raise the price of this firearm considerably, but I really feel like this rifle needs those features to be more ergonomic and more familiar to the manual of arms of both AR and AK users. But who knows, maybe this rifle will win me over in those things at the range. But speaking of the range, let's go to it. Let's put some rounds through this thing and see how awesome this rifle is, or maybe, who knows, it's a dud. So at the range, I always like to start off with rifles at 10 yards just to see how they shoot, how they function, and see if I discover anything about them that I didn't notice here on the workbench. So here we go, one magazine, the first shots. Let's just test this thing out. Let's just make sure it works, and then we'll take it out to further distances and try a few other things with it. But I'm really excited to get to experience this. So here we go. Let's go to the range. So something I want you to notice about this range report is because I know this is a hybrid type of firearm, I want to make sure that I show you all the different types of ammunition that I run through it. I'm not expecting to have any issues, but just in case I do, I want to show you that I'm running both steel and brass cased ammunition, as well as foreign and domestic. I try to give you guys as much information as possible so you can make your best choices if this is a firearm that you are interested in. Now, my first impressions of this rifle are pretty darn positive. I actually thought this thing was going to kick a little bit more than it actually did, but it was relatively comfortable. The stock, however, rubs into my shoulder a little bit awkward, and as I said, it's that metal butt pad that I just don't like. I feel like this could be redesigned or have a piece of rubber on the back. This should be something that I think CMMG changes or takes a look at. The gun also seems to be a little bit over-gassed. I noticed there was some fireballs coming out of the ejection port, as well as the casings being thrown literally all the way across the range. You can even see a few of them hitting the camera. I had no idea they were going to come out at that velocity. But besides that, the gun seems to run well and seems to be pretty accurate. So let's go ahead and double the distance of this target. I'm going to go for the head on this IDPA silhouette. Just see if this group stays the same, if I encounter any other issues, and we'll just go from there. And pretty much I got a similar sized group, and all of my comments are pretty much exactly the same. But it does look like I do need to adjust this EOTech. So before we go any further in this review, I should probably address that. I'm not sure if this was zeroed before I got this gun in for review. So let me adjust the EOTech, and let's try this test one more time at 20 yards with another magazine. And that's definitely a lot better. And as you can see, the grouping is pretty consistent at all of these different ranges. Now that I've held this rifle for a little bit longer as well, I'm starting to notice its weight. According to the website, this is a 7-pound rifle unloaded. It's not too heavy, but the balance overall is pretty good. But if you hold it for long enough, you definitely start to feel it. It's not like a 4 or 5 pound AR-15. And as the saying goes, ounces can become pounds when you're holding a rifle for a long time, and that definitely is the case. But I understand why this rifle is heavier. After all, it is chambered in a much bigger caliber than 5.56. Alright, so the next test I want to do is the bench rest test. Now I know I'm only at a range where I can shoot out to 25 yards. However, I look at a gun like this as a fighting carbine. This is not going to be some type of precision rifle, although I'm sure you can shoot it out to 100, 200, 300 yards just fine. But for the applications of an average gun guy like myself, 25 yards is perfectly fine. And at this range, I'm expecting this thing to have an incredible group. Now I'm going to shoot this unmagnified with this EOTech. So let me bench rest this thing and let me see how I do at 25 yards. And of course, this thing groups great. And I think a lot of that has to do with the trigger. And I would say I've shot a lot of ARs and a lot of AKs in my time. And I think this thing shoots a little bit better than your standard AK. Now, AKs can have exceptional accuracy, but this gun is also a little bit more ergonomic. Maybe I'm just a little bit more familiar with it because I'm an AR guy more than an AK guy. But for shooting 7.62 by 39, I am very impressed with this gun's accuracy. So the next test I want to do is the quick magazine change test. Now I'm going to spoil a little something for you that I discovered at the range. And that is, this mag well is a little bit tight with these P-mags. And as you can see, sometimes it takes me a little bit more energy to get that in and out than what I think it should be. One of the things I did want to test at the range is to take the other magazine and do what you can mainly do with a lot of AKs, and you push it against that lever and drop that magazine and reinsert the new one and do it pretty fast. However, with this gun, I was not able to do that because I could not strip these P-mags out of this receiver, so I had to do it by hand. I think this gun is going to shoot fast, but this magazine change I think is going to be a little bit slow. Now, unfortunately, I didn't bring any other AK mags with me, so I'm not sure if this is something that I would encounter with other mags, but with the P-mags, they definitely fit a little bit tight. So that's just a little note that I wanted you guys to know. So here we go. Let me see how fast I can shoot this thing, change out the magazine, and get it back in action. Well, this gun definitely has a fast trigger, but a slow mag change. And this is the test that really reminded me that this gun needs either a side charger or a bolt catch on it. It was just a little bit weird having to take that gun away from my face to grab that charging handle. And I know I can keep the gun up here, it's just not as ergonomic, and having my hand that close to my face just seems a little bit awkward and weird. I just wish it had a bolt catch like a standard AR. So I'm not really sure what they could do using AK mags, but they're a very innovative company. I'm sure they could figure something out. All right, so the last test I want to do is just do a basic mag dump. I want to give you guys the gun porn. Of course, I got to load up one of these magazines to full capacity and just shoot this thing fast. Now, also, I want you guys to notice that this gun does not have very much rise to it. And I think a lot of that has to do with this fantastic muzzle brake. And normally, I'm not a big fan of muzzle brakes. But however, this gun does have a 16-inch barrel, and I'm not noticing much concussion from it. But it's definitely an effective brake. So I'm just point shooting this. So let's just do a quick mag dump and see how fast I can empty a magazine. And man, oh man, is that a lot of fun. And I can definitely pull this trigger really fast. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it has a Geissele trigger in it. They're just awesome. I like to use Geissele triggers on all of my rifle builds here at the Texas Gun Vault, and I definitely think they're pricey, but they are worth every single penny. So what are my final thoughts on the CMMG Resolute, the successor to the Mutant, an AR chambered in 7.62 by 39 that takes AK magazines? Well, this gun definitely has some pros and cons, and depending on how you prioritize those, this might be a rifle that really interests you, or it might be a rifle that you want to avoid. So what are the pros? It's definitely a cool concept. It has an outstanding trigger in it, and it's a very, very well-balanced gun. I really like how the center of gravity is about right where you would want it to be. For me, it's a naturally pointing firearm, and it can feel like an extension of your body. But what are the cons to this? Well, I've already talked about how unergonomic it is in some aspects. This stock has to go, or at least it needs a rubber butt pad on the back. It looks really cool. It looks tactical. It functions great, except it just hurts to shoot. I probably had this thing on my shoulder for about 30 to 45 minutes today, and afterwards, I definitely felt it in the car ride home. It needs a rubber butt pad. This thing also seems to be a little bit overgassed, as I talked about earlier, and it's really expelling these cartridges out way too far and way too fast. And I don't know anything about the porting in this barrel. I don't know any of the specs as compared to 5.56. It just feels like maybe they need to tone it down just a little bit. The other thing I discovered is the mag well just seems to be a little bit too tight. So hopefully if one of you guys owns one of these rifles, you can tell me, does yours experience that same problem? Are P-mags harder to get in and out, and do other mags work better? And then finally, this gun needs a side charger or a bolt hold open. I think that would just make this a little bit easier to maneuver, whether or not you're an AK guy or an AR guy. Both of those platforms have something, either a side charger or they have a bolt hold open, and this gun needs one or both. And I know the people at CMMG are always innovating. I think they need to come up with something like that in a future model of this particular gun. So on my star system, how would I rate the CMMG Resolute? Well, I'm very impressed with it. It was a lot of fun to shoot. It functioned well. It took all the different types of ammunition that I shot through it. I felt like it was accurate. There's many aspects of this gun that I do like, and the few that I don't, maybe I could change, like the stock. I can't add a side charger, however, or a bolt hold open. But because of that, I'm only going to dock just a couple of points. So out of 5 stars, I can easily give the CMMG Resolute 4 out of 5 stars. I think that's a very fair rating for this rifle. It's well built. I think a lot of time and energy went into its design. It's just a good rifle. And I think it is better than the Mutant that came before it. It has a great trigger. And I feel like if you're an AK guy, there's something about this rifle you can appreciate. And if you're an AR guy, there's something about this rifle you can appreciate. I really do feel like it blends both worlds together, and I think it's going to make a lot of people really happy. So let me know in the comment section below what you think. Do you own one of these guns? Do you think it hits the mark, or is it a big miss? Are you an AR guy or an AK guy? And does this interest you at all? Let me know what you think. And, as always, thanks for watching.